I found this on a giveaway shelf at a local food pantry. It's a small ceramic container, about 3 inches tall, with a little bird and tiny paintings on the side. But the strangest part is this narrow slit cut into the side. Even the pantry workers had no idea what it was. Does anyone know what it is? This is a ceramic postage stamp dispenser. These small decorative holders were popular desk accessories from the mid-20th century, designed to hold a roll of postage stamps neatly inside the body. You feed the end of the stamp roll out through that narrow slit and tear off stamps one at a time as needed. Before self-adhesive sheets became standard in the 1990s, stamps came on long, coiled rolls that were awkward to store on a desk. Dispensers like yours kept them clean, organized, and within easy reach for writing letters. I found this 9-inch winged metal piece in a family member's box, sitting next to a 1950s Pontiac horn button. It has a lid and a handle, and it looks like it screws onto something. Does anyone know what it is? This is a vintage automotive air cleaner housing, the type that mounted on top of a carburetor in cars from the 1940s and 1950s. The winged shape isn't just decorative, it directs incoming airflow into the unit. The mechanism works like this. Air enters through the side openings, passes through an oil bath or mesh filter inside the housing, and then flows down through the central threaded stud into the carburetor throat. The lid lifts off for servicing the filter element. Given the 1950s Pontiac horn button found with it, this likely came off a Pontiac straight 8 or early V8 engine of the same era. What are these light-colored lines and lanes that appear stretching across the landscape in Canada? They cut straight through forests and fields, traversing huge distances over the land, and they show up clearly against the surrounding vegetation. Does anyone know what they are? These are power line corridors, also called transmission line rights-of-way. They appear lighter than the surrounding land because utility companies clear and maintain the vegetation underneath the high-voltage lines, removing tall trees and replacing them with low grasses and shrubs. The reason is safety and reliability. If a tall tree falls onto a transmission line, it can cause a major power outage, spark wildfires, or damage expensive equipment. In Canada, where forests cover huge areas, these cleared strips can stretch for hundreds of miles and are typically 30 to 60 meters wide. Crews inspect and trim them regularly, often by helicopter, to keep the country's electrical grid running. I found this small metal charm in some donated jewelry. It feels heavy and solid, possibly made of copper, and it's tiny enough that I had to use a pen for scale. Does anyone know what it is? This is a reproduction of a Mixtec monkey head pendant. The Mixtec civilization flourished in the highlands of what is now Oaxaca, Mexico, from roughly 1500 BC until the Spanish conquest in the 1500s. They were master metalworkers, particularly known for their gold work using the lost wax casting technique. The monkey was a significant figure in Mesoamerican mythology, often associated with the arts, dance, and the day sign Ozomatli in the sacred calendar. Original pieces sit in museums, but cast copper reproductions like this one are commonly sold at archaeological sites and museum gift shops in Mexico. I found these 3 matching brass items at my parents' house in Sydney. They're shaped like sea creatures, a crab, a dolphin, and seahorses, and each one has a hinge with a screw you can tighten or loosen. The backs are smooth, and they were likely brought home from Japan in the late 1940s. Does anyone know what they are? These are pressure bookends, sometimes called clamp style or expanding bookends. Unlike traditional bookends that slide under the books, these work through a completely different mechanism. You place them at each end of a row of books, then adjust the hinge with the screw to expand the angle. This wedges the bookends tightly against the books, using friction and pressure rather than weight to hold everything in place. The decorative sea creature side faces outward as the visible display, while the smooth back presses against the books. Brass versions like yours were popular Japanese export souvenirs during the post-war Allied occupation period. What is this strange black electronic device attached to a tripod? It has a radio antenna and a blinking green light. A service person carried it into a vacant apartment in my building that has been empty for over 6 months. Does anyone know what it is? This is a spore sniffer, specifically a model made by Spore Site. It's a portable air sampling device used by mold inspectors and indoor air quality professionals. The unit works by drawing in a measured volume of air through a small pump, then directing that airflow across a collection vessel, the white protrusion visible on top. Spores and particles stick to a treated slide or cassette inside, which is later analyzed under a microscope to identify mold species and concentration levels. The blinking light and antenna relate to its onboard sensors and wireless data logging. Inspectors often deploy these in vacant or water-damaged units to confirm whether remediation is needed before new tenants move in. What is this small plastic end cap-looking thing? It's about an inch square, rigid plastic, and I found it under the kitchen sink in my UK home. I've walked around the house trying to find a matching item. We moved in back in 2018. Does anyone know what it is? It's the protective cover for the cutting wheel of a handheld can opener. Many modern can openers, particularly safety models like those made by OXO or Kuhn Rikon, have a small snap-on cap that shields the sharp rotating blade when the tool isn't in use. The cap is removable so you can pop it off for cleaning, since food residue tends to build up around the gear and wheel. They fall off easily in drawers and under sinks, which is exactly why so many people find one without ever realizing what it belongs to. I found this heavy, rusted piece while cleaning out an old playhouse in the countryside. It has a tall, square arm and a circular wheel mechanism that doesn't move, probably due to rust. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a bumper jack, a type of vehicle jack that was standard equipment in American cars from the 1950s through the late 1970s. Here's how it works. The square arm slides vertically through the housing, and a ratcheting mechanism inside grips it. When you pump the handle up and down, a pawl engages notches in the arm, lifting it one notch at a time. The hook at the top would catch onto a slot in the car's chrome bumper to raise the vehicle for tire changes. These were phased out in the 1980s, when unibody cars replaced full-frame bumpers, making them unsafe to use. What is this old metal tool? I was told it might be for split-rim wheels, but one part is clearly stamped with the word coupling. Does anyone know what it is? It's a removable or clamp-on tow hitch, designed to attach a trailer ball to a vehicle without a permanent receiver. Here's how it functions. The large jaws clamp directly onto the rear bumper or frame of the vehicle, tightened by the threaded coupling mechanism that gives it the name stamped on the part. Once secured, the trailer's coupler latches onto the ball on top. These were common from the 1940s through the 1960s on cars with sturdy steel bumpers, before bolt-on receiver hitches became the standard. Modern bumpers are too thin and crumple-designed to safely use one today. I found this in a charity shop in the UK and thought it looked quite cool. It's a long, belt-like leather strap with a metal hook on one end and a medallion of a horse on the other. There are numbers running down the length and a small slider that can move up or down over them. Does anyone know what it is? This is a perpetual leather strap calendar, sometimes called a slide calendar. The mechanism is simple but clever. Each day you move the small leather slider down by one number and friction holds it in place over the current date. These were popular novelty items from the mid-20th century, often sold as souvenirs or promotional items, with the horse medallion suggesting an equestrian or country theme. Unlike paper calendars, they were designed to be reused year after year. They were typically hung on a wall or door using the metal hook, and the manual interaction made them a tactile reminder to keep track of the date. A weird lace thing came in a clothing bundle I bought. It has 3 long pieces, all sewn shut, and one is sewn at the top as well. There's only one hole, not an in and out hole, just one, kind of like a hat. The tag just says S. Does anyone know what it is? This is a lace crop top, specifically a style sometimes called a bandeau or shrug-style lace top. The single opening you're describing is the neckline, and the 3 sewn tubes are the body and the 2 sleeves, which are designed to be very fitted. Garments like this gained popularity in the late 2010s through fast fashion retailers like Shein and AliExpress. The construction is intentionally minimal, using stretch lace to conform to the body without traditional closures or hems. The tag marked S simply indicates size small. I found this hammer at a thrift store in Western Canada, among assorted tools. It's large and heavy, showing heavy mushrooming from use, and the back has been cut or ground flat. It doesn't look like any standard claw hammer I've seen. Does anyone know what it is? This is a blacksmithing tool called a side set, sometimes referred to as a butcher. Despite looking like a hammer, it isn't swung, it's actually a striking tool that gets hit. The blacksmith holds it by the handle and places the wedge-shaped head against a piece of hot iron on the anvil. A second person, called the striker, then hammers the mushroomed top end to drive the cutting edge into the workpiece. The flat side creates a clean, square shoulder, while the tapered side pushes metal away. Smiths use this to form tenons, isolate sections, and cut precise grooves in hot stock. What is this shaped metal attachment with a hook, a handle, and two extending arms? It measures about 4 millimeters in diameter and 18 centimeters in length. Any ideas? This is a wire grill pan handle. It functions as a detachable lifter for removing hot grill pans, broiler trays, or roasting racks from an oven. The two arms slide under or hook onto the edge of the pan, the central hook locks into a slot on the cookware, and the long handle keeps your hand well away from the heat. Detachable handles like this allow the pan itself to fit fully inside the oven without a permanent handle taking up space. Countless manufacturers have produced nearly identical versions since the mid-20th century, which is why they often turn up in drawers separated from their original pans. I found this in a beach cove, and it looks man-made. It's metallic with some kind of coating, heavy like solid metal, and about 2 inches along its longest side. Some parts even glow, faint blue under UV light. Google Lens hinted at an artillery component. Does anyone know what it is? This is the remains of a powder train time fuse, often abbreviated as PTTF. These fuses were screwed into the nose of artillery shells and used a ring of slow-burning compressed gunpowder to delay detonation by a set number of seconds after firing. The gunner would rotate the ring to set the burn time before loading. The faint blue UV glow likely comes from residual chemical compounds in the fuse body. Even decades later and corroded by seawater, these can retain small amounts of energetic material capable of causing burns or hand injuries. The safe move is to contact police or fire services so an explosive ordnance disposal team can assess it properly. I found this in an old shed alongside parts from a 1941 Ford Super Deluxe and some post-war oil pump jack components. It's about 12 inches long with a cast metal body, a small bell on one end, and a larger bezel on the other. Any ideas what it is? This is a burner assembly from an old gas or propane stove. The smaller bell-shaped end is the mixing chamber, where gas enters through a small jet and draws in air through the surrounding ports. As the gas and air mix and travel down the tube, they emerge at the larger end, where the flame spreads evenly across the burner head. This design, known as a Bunsen-style burner, has been the standard in gas cooking appliances since the late 1800s. Given the company it was found in, this one likely dates to the 1940s or earlier. What is this egg-shaped green metal object found in an old home in northern Minnesota? It measures 3 by 4 inches and lies flat, with a small screw holding one flat piece in place. There are no markings anywhere, but there's obvious wear around the opening. We've ruled out a bottle opener, ashtray, stamp dispenser, and tape dispenser. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a vintage match safe, or match dispenser. These small containers were common household items from the late 1800s through the mid-20th century, designed to hold strike-anywhere matches and keep them dry. The wear around the opening is from decades of striking match heads against the metal edge to ignite them. Cast iron and enameled versions like this one were often produced as kitchen wall mounts. Once safety matches in cardboard boxes became standard, these dispensers fell out of use, but collectors still seek them out for their decorative designs. What is this small instrument that looks like a pressure gauge? It fits easily in my hand, and the arm on it does not swing out. Does anyone know what it is? This is a phacoemulsification handpiece, a surgical tool made by Storz Ophthalmic Instruments, which is now owned by Bausch & Lomb. It is used during cataract surgery to remove the clouded lens from a patient's eye. The handpiece contains a titanium needle that vibrates at ultrasonic frequencies, typically between 27 and 60 kilohertz. When the surgeon touches the needle to the cloudy lens through a tiny incision, those vibrations break the lens into microscopic fragments. At the same time, an internal channel applies suction to aspirate the broken pieces out of the eye, while irrigation fluid flows in to maintain pressure. A clear artificial lens is then inserted to restore vision. I found these steel slider clips in a leather case at my grandfather's belongings. Each clip is marked PAT 112992, and the case is about 3.25 inches wide, stamped V.L. Vrooman, Minneapolis, Minnesota. My grandfather was born in 1900, but no one alive knows what these are. Does anyone know? These are bodkins, specifically the model covered by U.S. Patent 487134, granted to P.R. Stevens on November 29, 1892. A bodkin is a blunt sewing tool used to thread ribbon, elastic, cord, or drawstring through fabric channels, hems, and casings. The steel slider clip is the key innovation in this patent. You clamp the end of your ribbon or elastic into the slider, then push the bodkin through the fabric tunnel, pulling the material along behind it. The case-stamped V.L. Vrooman of Minneapolis indicates the retailer or distributor who sold the set. Before the rise of mass-produced clothing, bodkins like these were essential household tools for both garment making and repair. My grandma gave me this old dress, and when I took it off the hanger, all this weird brown dust came pouring out. It looks and feels like dry foam, and there's no smell. What the hell is it? What you're seeing is disintegrating polyurethane foam, most likely from padded cups or shoulder pads built into the dress. This is a well-known chemical breakdown called hydrolysis. Over time, moisture in the air reacts with the polymer chains in the foam, causing them to snap apart. The flexible material then crumbles into this dry, dusty, crumb-like powder. Foam from the 1970s through the 1990s is especially prone to this, which is why so many vintage garments, bra cups, and camera cases fall apart the same way after about 20 to 30 years. What are these? It's a plastic tube container holding 4 detachable stylus pin things, each with a different colored cap. Does anyone know what they are? These are markers from the Lifeline's Flow Art set, a creative drawing kit designed for fluid, blendable color work. The set typically includes 4 refillable marker barrels, each capped in a different color to identify the ink inside. The pens use a flow-based ink system, meaning the ink moves freely through the tip for smooth, watercolor-like strokes that can be blended together on paper. The plastic tube doubles as storage and a stand. Flow Art sets were marketed as a portable, mess-free alternative to liquid paints for both kids and hobby artists. I thrifted this travel jacket for a few bucks and noticed it has these small, black, cylindrical things attached on the inside. They're made of a rubbery material, about 1.5 centimeters long, and there are 3 of them in total. Does anyone know what they are? These are headphone cord keepers, sometimes called cable management loops. They became a standard feature on travel and tech-oriented jackets in the early 2010s, popularized by brands like ScottyVest and Bluffworks. The mechanism is simple. The rubbery cylinders are slit down the side, allowing you to press a thin cable, like headphone wire or a charging cord, into the channel. Friction holds the wire in place, routing it from an internal pocket up to your collar without tangling. With the rise of wireless earbuds, this feature has largely disappeared from modern jacket designs. I found these blue plastic sleeve things in my bathroom. Each one opens on one side and has a hole in the middle. Does anyone know what they are? These are protective packaging sleeves for scissors, most likely hair shears given where you found them. Professional barber and stylist shears are shipped and stored in these molded plastic guards to protect the cutting edge, which is precision ground to angles between 40 and 50 degrees. The hole in the middle accommodates the finger ring of the scissor handle, while the slit along one side allows the blades to slide in safely. Hair shears can cost several $100s, so these sleeves prevent dulling and chipping during transport or in a drawer. I found this tiny pink ball on my cat's outdoor bed on the top floor of my apartment in British Columbia. It's harder than expected, won't pop, and only singes when burned. Rice grains are next to it for scale. Does anyone know what it is? This is a strawberry nerd, the small crunchy candy made by the Ferrara Candy Company. Nerds were introduced in 1983 by the Sunmark Company and became famous for their irregular, pebble-like shape. Each piece is made by layering sugar crystals around a tiny core, similar to how a pearl forms, which is why they are so hard and won't melt easily. A bird likely picked it up and dropped it onto the patio bed through the chicken wire opening. Birds are well known for scavenging dropped human food, including candy. What is this roughly 20-foot chain hanging from a steel beam at a train station? It comes down from an iron beam high above and ends in a bed of rocks in a small garden near the waiting room of an Amtrak SEPTA station. I couldn't find anything about it online. Is it some kind of art installation? This is a rain chain, known in Japanese as a kusari-doi, and it functions as a decorative alternative to a traditional enclosed downspout. When rain falls onto the roof, water is channeled to the top of the chain and then cascades down, link by link, guided by surface tension and gravity, into the rock bed below. The rocks help disperse the water and prevent erosion. Rain chains have been used in Japan for hundreds of years on temples and homes, and they've become popular in modern Western architecture for both their visual appeal and the soothing sound they create during storms. We're at an Airbnb in Louisiana, and my sister's boyfriend was fiddling with little rings on the arm of his chair when suddenly one popped out. They're actually pull tabs that extend metal bars about a foot out from the arms of the chair. We have no idea what they're for. Does anyone know what it is? What you found are tray holder arms, also called tray supports, a clever feature built into certain occasional chairs and recliners from the mid-20th century. Here's how they work. When retracted, the bars sit flush inside the chair arms, hidden except for the small finger rings. When pulled out, the two parallel bars extend forward to create a stable platform that holds a serving tray, a TV dinner tray, or a book rest in front of the seated user. This style was popular in living rooms and dens from the 1950s and 1960s, offering a built-in alternative to a separate TV tray table. My son found this in a stream in western Oregon today. It's a ceramic object with a brown enamel coating, about 3 inches across, with smooth glazed areas and a rough sandy texture on other parts. It's near a railroad and power line. Does anyone know what it is? This is a fragment of a ceramic power line insulator, specifically a piece of a high-voltage porcelain insulator used on utility poles or transmission towers. Here's how they work. The glazed brown porcelain is a non-conductive material that prevents electricity from traveling from the wire down the support structure to the ground. The smooth glaze sheds water and dirt to maintain insulation, while the rough, unglazed area is where the porcelain was originally bonded to a metal cap or pin with cement. Insulators frequently crack from lightning strikes, gunfire, or thermal stress, and broken pieces often end up scattered along rail and power corridors, eventually washing into nearby streams. I found this red plastic piece on the driver's side floor of my 2012 Lexus RX 350 near the brake pedal. It looks like the corner of something, with a round hole in the middle and maybe some faint writing near the hole. I checked the interior doors, thinking it might be a reflector, but mine only have lights. Does anyone know what it is? This is a broken corner fragment from an automotive taillight lens. The red translucent plastic, the molded mounting hole, and the small embossed lettering are all signatures of factory taillight housings. The hole in the middle is where a screw or stud secured the lens to the vehicle body. Most likely, you walked through a parking lot where a fender bender had occurred, and the shard stuck to the tread of your shoe before falling off near the pedals. It didn't come from your own car, which is why you couldn't find a matching damaged part. What is this 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch aluminum beam I found under my mudroom? It has these strange grooves running along every side. Any guesses? This is a piece of T-slot aluminum extrusion, commonly known by the brand name 8020. It's a modular building material widely used in industrial automation, machine framing, and prototyping. The T-shaped channels along each face allow special bolts and connectors to slide in, letting engineers assemble custom frames, workstations, and machine guards without welding. The system was developed by the 8020 Inc. company in 1989 and is sometimes called the Industrial Erector Set. A piece this size is quite expensive, so whoever installed it under your mudroom likely had access to surplus from a workplace. What is this small, copper-plated cylinder I found sitting in the chair on my back porch? It has one hole on the end and a smaller hole on the side that looks like it might be threaded for a set screw. There are 10 small lines etched into the bottom. It feels solid, but cheap, about the weight of a bullet casing. Maintenance workers were here recently, so it might be theirs. Does anyone know what it is? It's an aglet. Specifically, the metal tip from a drawstring on a hoodie or pair of sweatpants. While the word aglet usually refers to the plastic ends on shoelaces, decorative metal versions like this one are crimped onto fabric cords for hooded sweatshirts, athletic wear, and bags. The larger hole is where the drawstring cord is inserted, and the small side hole holds the crimp point that grips the fabric in place. The etched lines on the bottom are simply a decorative manufacturer's stamp. These pop off easily once the crimp loosens, which is why you found one lying around. Someone gave me this tiny tool and told me it was for sewing, but it doesn't quite look right for that. It has a soft brush on one end and a small pointed tip on the other. Any ideas what this is? This is an AirPods cleaning tool, a product category that emerged after Apple released the AirPods in 2016. The pointed end is designed to dislodge earwax and debris from the speaker mesh, while the soft brush sweeps away dust from the charging case contacts and microphone ports. Some versions also include a metal loop for pulling out compacted grime. These tools became popular around 2019 as wireless earbuds became mainstream, and users discovered that clogged mesh significantly reduces audio quality. I found this small electrical device on my desk at work. A colleague must have left it behind, but I have no idea what it is or who it belongs to. I'd like to return it if I can figure out what it does. Does anyone recognize it? What you found is a pair of Anker Soundcore wireless earbuds, most likely the Liberty or Life series. Anker was founded in 2011 by former Google engineer Stephen Yang, and the Soundcore audio brand launched in 2016. The device you're holding is actually the charging case, which contains a lithium-ion battery that recharges the earbuds when they're docked inside. A small LED on the front indicates battery status. Open the lid and you'll likely find the two earbuds nested in their charging contacts. I found this pink, bendy, smooth coil in what looks like a hat or craft project. It's small, flexible, and actually works pretty well as a fidget toy. Does anyone know what it is? This is a piece of bendable craft wire coil, commonly known as boa wire or bendy craft tubing. It consists of a thin metal wire core wrapped in a soft plastic or silicone sleeve, which is then formed into a tight helical coil. The coil structure lets the piece stretch, twist, and hold its shape without breaking. Crafters use these for millinery work like decorating hats, for floral arrangements, and for shaping costume elements. The same material shows up in toy sets and educational kits because the combination of flexibility and shape memory makes it satisfying to manipulate, which is why it works so well as a fidget. What is this brass fitting mounted on a wooden rose next to a bay window? It's installed in a London period property from the early 1900s. The brass piece has a central barrel, a small arm sticking out to one side, and a round knob with a hole through it on the other. Does anyone know what it is? This is a Victorian or Edwardian gas lamp connection, with the actual lamp fixture long since removed. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, before electrical lighting was widespread in British homes, rooms were illuminated by piped coal gas. The central barrel is the gas supply pipe coming through the wall, while the small arm acts as the shutoff valve. The knob on the other side controlled the flow of gas to the lamp burner. When homes were converted to electricity, often the lamps were removed, but these brass fittings were left behind, capped off and sealed. Finding one intact like this is a nice piece of household history. I found these at a stand selling jewelry in my local flea market. They're a set of two small brass acorn-shaped pieces, and when you press them, spring-loaded spikes pop out of the sides. The vendor wasn't sure what they were either. Does anyone know what they are? These are Victorian anti-theft pocket watch fobs, also called watch protectors, dating to the late 19th century. Pickpocketing was rampant in industrial-era cities like London and New York, and gentlemen's pocket watches were prime targets. The device works on a clever mechanical principle. When attached to a watch chain and tucked into the vest pocket, a sudden tug from a thief activates the spring mechanism, releasing the sharp spikes outward. The spikes would catch and grip the inside of the pocket fabric, making it nearly impossible to yank the watch free without alerting the owner. Genuine examples are quite rare today and highly sought after by collectors. What is this clear plastic tray and dropper contraption? It's about the size of 2 decks of cards placed side by side. I saw it used in a video where someone was making fruit caviar. Does anyone know what it's called? This is a caviar spherification tool, sometimes called a caviar maker or spherification dropper kit. It's used in molecular gastronomy, a technique popularized by Spanish chef Ferran Adrià at his restaurant El Bulli in the early 2000s. The device works by holding flavored liquid mixed with sodium alginate above a tray with dozens of small holes. When you squeeze or press the top, the liquid releases in uniform droplets that fall into a calcium chloride bath below. On contact, the alginate reacts with the calcium and instantly forms a thin gel skin around each droplet, creating little spheres that burst with flavor in your mouth, mimicking the texture of fish caviar. I found this bent metal thing on top of a radiator when we moved into a new apartment. It's smaller than a banana, doesn't bend, and is pretty light. Does anyone know what it is? This is a window restrictor, sometimes called a window opening limiter. It works as a paired set, with a second piece mounted on the opposite window frame. When the 2 windows are closed or partially open, the curved waves on this bracket lock into the matching component, bridging the gap between them. This prevents the window from opening more than about 4 inches. Restrictors like this are required in many rental properties across Europe as a child safety measure, blocking falls from upper floors while still allowing ventilation. What is this screw-looking thing that doesn't have a slot or Phillips head? The shaft has a metal grip texture, it's silver, and about 5/8 of an inch long. I found it inside the house. Does anyone know what it is? This is a press-fit dowel pin, also called a grooved pin. It functions without threads or a drive head because it's not designed to turn. The hole it goes into is drilled slightly smaller than the pin itself, and the cross-hatched or knurled texture on the shaft compresses as the pin is hammered or pressed into place. That friction grip locks it permanently, aligning 2 parts together with high precision. You'll find these in furniture joints, engine components, electronics, and machinery anywhere a manufacturer needs a strong, vibration-resistant connection without using a screw. What is this small white plastic object about 1.5 inches in length? It's magnetic, has a visible notch on one side, and there are no markings of any kind. Does anyone know what it is? This is part of a magnetic aquarium glass cleaner, specifically the inner half that sits inside the fish tank. These cleaners come in 2 pieces, an outer handle and an inner scrubber, both containing strong magnets that attract through the glass. When you slide the outer piece, the inner piece moves with it, scraping algae off the interior surface without getting your hands wet. The notch you see typically holds a felt or abrasive pad, which is clearly worn off or detached on this one. Without the pad, the magnet alone is useless for cleaning. What are these 2 black boxes mounted on a roof with a wooden stick? Each one is about the size of a walkie-talkie, with 2 antennas and wires coming out. One lights up steadily, while the other blinks blue, and there's a sound passing back and forth between them every few moments. Does anyone know what they are? What you're looking at is a solar-powered trail camera setup with a wireless connection, essentially a makeshift security camera system. One unit houses the camera and solar panel, while the other acts as a wireless receiver or repeater, which is why you see the lights blinking in sync. The audio passing between them is the data handshake as the units communicate. These setups work by capturing motion-triggered footage and transmitting it wirelessly to a base station or phone app, allowing the owner to monitor an area without running power or data cables. The janky appearance comes from the fact that these are often homemade or budget rigs, assembled from off-the-shelf hunting cameras. I picked this up at a thrift store in Canada years ago, and I've always wondered about it. It's a wooden, paddle-shaped object, 22 inches long, 4 inches wide, and half an inch thick. The back is completely blank, but there's a small nipple on the bottom that looks like it's meant to fit into another piece. It has real wear on it, like it was actually used for something. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a Makonde stick zither, a traditional musical instrument originating from the Makonde people of Tanzania and Mozambique in East Africa. The flat paddle shape serves as the resonator body, while the small protrusion at the bottom is designed to anchor into a gourd or wooden base that amplifies the sound. Strings would have been stretched along the length of the paddle and plucked or struck to produce melodic tones. The Makonde are renowned for their wood carving traditions, and instruments like this were used in storytelling, ceremonies, and daily entertainment. The wear you see suggests this piece was a genuine working instrument rather than a tourist reproduction. I found this knit cinch top hat in a thrift store. It has faux fur trim along the bottom edge and decorative fur tassels at the end of 2 drawstrings. The fabric isn't stretchy at all, which seems odd for a hat. Does anyone know what it is? This is a convertible hat and neck warmer. The non-stretchy knit and cinch drawstring design are intentional, allowing the same garment to serve 2 functions. When pulled tight at the top using the fur-tipped strings, it forms a snug winter hat. When loosened and worn around the neck, the tube of fabric becomes a cowl or neck gaiter, with the faux fur trim sitting attractively against the chest. These dual-purpose accessories became popular in cold-weather fashion lines because they reduce the number of items a wearer needs to carry while skiing, hiking, or commuting. I found these brown pellets scattered randomly on the ground, and my dog was trying to eat them. I tasted one myself, and it had a slightly sweet flavor mixed with something like sawdust or hay. I want to make sure they aren't poisonous. Does anyone know what they are? These are most likely either rabbit or livestock feed granules or possibly fuel pellets used in pellet stoves. Feed pellets are made by compressing alfalfa, hay, grains, and molasses under high pressure, which is why they taste sweet and fibrous. Heating pellets, on the other hand, are made from compressed sawdust and wood byproducts, bound together by the natural lignin in the wood. Both are non-toxic, though feed pellets are designed to be eaten and heating pellets are not. If your dog ate a small amount of either, it should be fine. I found this small black plastic thing in my boyfriend's front room while we were tidying up. Neither of us has any idea what it is. The round part spins freely, it's quite flimsy, and the whole piece is hollow. Does anyone know what it could be? This is a foot, or base support, from an electric pedestal or tower fan. Most modern standing fans come with 2 to 4 of these plastic feet that snap or screw onto the bottom of the round base to provide stability and prevent the fan from tipping over. The spinning round part you noticed is often a locking mechanism or swivel cap that secures it in place. They're notoriously easy to lose during cleaning or moving, and without them, the fan won't stand properly. Check any fans in the house, you'll likely find one missing a foot. I found this in my grandfather's collection. He has a lot of antique navigational and nautical equipment, so I thought it might be related to that. It's made of brass with a wooden tip that unscrews, and it looks very old. Does anyone know what it is? This is an antique whistle, likely a boatswain's call or a similar signaling whistle used aboard ships. Brass whistles like this have been used by naval officers since at least the 13th century to issue commands to crews over the noise of wind and waves. The wooden tip that unscrews is unusual and suggests it may also have functioned as a tool handle or storage compartment. Each pitch and trill pattern from the whistle conveyed a specific order, such as piping the side for visiting officers or calling hands to a meal. What is the purpose of this delicate piece of lace mounted on paper? It likely dates from between 1900 and the 1920s. I'm not sure if it's a practice piece, a decoration meant for a dress, or intended for display on its own. Any ideas? This is a doily made using a technique called bobbin lace, known in French as a napoleon en dentelle. The lace is created by braiding and twisting threads wound on small wooden bobbins, with the pattern guided by pins set into a pricked paper template, which is exactly what you see here. The paper backing serves both as the original pattern and as a way to protect and store the finished piece. Doilies like this were used decoratively or placed under objects to protect varnished wood surfaces. Your example appears to be unfinished and was likely intended to be sewn into the edge of a larger piece. The craft is still taught today at specialized schools in Europe. What is this chrome metal tube, about 3¼ inches long and 1¼ inches in diameter? It has red plastic caps on each end, a push button on one side, and a 3-foot insulated wire ending in a spring clip. There's a coil inside, but no batteries. Does anyone know what it is? This is an automotive remote starter switch, though yours appears to be missing its second wire. These tools have been used by mechanics since the 1950s for diagnosing engine problems. The way it works is simple but clever. One clip attaches to the positive battery terminal, and the missing wire would connect to the starter solenoid. When you press the button, it completes the circuit and cranks the engine, letting a technician test compression, check timing, or turn the engine over while standing under the hood instead of sitting in the driver's seat. What is this sausage-shaped object full of iron and possibly lead that was found inside the fuel tank of a 1978 Aston Martin? It's heavy, cylindrical, and was completely submerged in petrol when discovered. Does anyone know what it is? This is most likely a fuel tank damper weight, sometimes called a slosh damper or anti-surge weight. In high-performance vehicles like the Aston Martin V8, fuel can slosh violently inside the tank during hard cornering or braking. This sudden movement can momentarily uncover the fuel pickup, causing the engine to starve and stutter. The weighted sausage sits at the bottom of the tank to help dampen these waves of fuel and keep the pickup submerged. The dense iron and lead core ensures it stays put under the fuel, while the outer casing protects the metal from corrosion. It's a low-tech but effective solution still used in some racing applications today. This thing came in the same tube as my diploma. It's in my school's colors, made of fabric about 6 inches long with a loop on one end. Image search says it's a tie, but it's way too short for that. Does anyone know what it is? This is a diploma ribbon, designed to wrap around your rolled-up diploma to keep it neatly bound. The loop on one end allows you to thread the other end through, creating an adjustable cinch that holds the document closed. They're typically made in the school's official colors and are included as a finishing touch for graduation. The tradition of rolling diplomas dates back centuries to when documents were written on parchment or vellum, which was naturally stored in a rolled form. Even though modern diplomas are usually displayed flat in frames, schools continue to ship them rolled with these decorative ribbons as a nod to academic tradition. What is this metal T-shaped bar mounted on the back of this SUV? It's a thin vertical pole with a horizontal crossbar near the top, bolted to the rear of the vehicle. It doesn't look like a regular car antenna. Does anyone know what it is? This is a ham radio antenna, specifically a mobile VHF or UHF amateur radio antenna. Ham radio operators install these on their vehicles to communicate over long distances using licensed frequencies regulated by the FCC in the United States. The T-shape is actually a dual-band design, where the horizontal element tunes one frequency range and the vertical element handles another. Unlike standard AM and FM car antennas, which only receive broadcast signals, this antenna can both transmit and receive, allowing operators to talk to others around the world, assist during emergencies, and participate in radio contests while driving. I found this piece of clay at the beach at Cap Blanc-Nez in France. It has the remains of some sort of inscription pressed into the surface, and the edges look weathered from the sea. Does anyone know what it once was, or maybe even how old it is? This is a fragment from the top of a manufactured clay brick, showing part of a maker's stamp. From the 19th century onward, brick manufacturers across Europe pressed their company name, location, or a batch number into the top face of each brick using a wooden or metal mold before firing. This practice helped identify the source for quality control and shipping. Cap Blanc-Nez sits along a coastline that saw heavy construction and wartime activity, including World War I and World War II fortifications, so bricks from demolished buildings or bunkers often wash up on the shore. Without a full inscription, it's hard to date precisely, but most stamped bricks like this one come from the late 1800s to mid-1900s. What is this tall structure on a platform at a beach house facing out to the sea? It's about 6 meters tall and sits near a small cargo port. Does anyone know what it is? This is a fairway mark, also known as a safe water mark. It's a maritime navigation aid used to guide vessels into and out of a port. Fairway marks indicate the center line of a navigable channel, telling captains that there is safe, deep water on all sides of the mark. They follow the international IALA buoyage system, typically featuring red and white vertical stripes with a single red sphere on top. By lining up the mark with their approach, ship pilots can confirm they are entering the channel correctly, which is especially important near cargo ports, where precise navigation prevents grounding. I found this tiny, clear acrylic disc about 1 inch wide, sitting in a plastic sleeve. It looks like a spare part for some kind of small tool, maybe for crafting. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a component from an eyeglasses repair kit. Specifically, it's a small magnifying lens that snaps directly onto the shaft of the tiny screwdriver included in the kit. These kits became popular consumer items in the 1980s, sold at drugstores for emergency frame fixes. The mechanism is clever. When you slide the disc onto the screwdriver shaft, it positions the lens at the perfect focal distance to magnify the tiny screws used in eyeglass hinges, which are often less than 1.4 millimeters wide. Without it, threading those screws back into place would be nearly impossible. What is this heavy, wire-wheeled metal object found underwater during a river cleanup in the Guadalupe River near Canyon Lake, Texas? I laid out 26 pairs of sunglasses around it for scale. Does anyone know what it is? This is the remains of a spoked hubcap, also known as a wire wheel cover. These decorative covers were popular on American cars from the 1950s through the 1980s, designed to mimic the look of expensive, genuine wire wheels found on luxury and sports cars. They snap or clip onto a standard steel wheel, with thin metal spokes radiating from a central hub to an outer ring. Over time, especially after being submerged, the thin plating corrodes away, leaving only the heavier steel skeleton you see here. It likely fell off a vehicle crossing a nearby bridge decades ago. What is this small metal button mounted on the bottom interior face of my hotel room door? It's perfectly round and sits flush with the door's surface. Does anyone know what it is? This is the catch plate for a magnetic door holder. The system has 2 parts, this metal disc on the door and a spring-loaded magnetic rod mounted on the wall behind where the door swings open. When the door is pushed fully open, the magnet on the wall grabs onto this metal plate and holds the door in place, preventing it from slamming shut or swinging in a draft. To release it, you simply pull the door with normal force and the magnet lets go. Hotels use them to keep doors propped open for housekeeping and luggage carts. I found this in an automotive enthusiast's garage. It's an alligator clip attached to a metal rod, with some mysterious parts encased in clear plastic. There's no display or screen showing measurements anywhere on it. Could this be part of a larger device? Does anyone know what it is? It's a circuit tester, sometimes called a test light or continuity tester. Inside the clear plastic handle is a small incandescent bulb wired between the alligator clip and the metal probe tip. To use it, you attach the clip to a ground or power source on the vehicle. Then touch the probe to the wire or component you want to check. If the bulb lights up, you know the circuit is complete and current is flowing. These simple tools have been a staple of automotive diagnostics since the early 20th century because they require no batteries and can quickly identify broken wires, blown fuses, or dead switches without the complexity of a digital multimeter. What is this device I found in an automotive enthusiast's shed? It has 2 alligator-type clips attached to a small meter, but there's no identifiable measurement scale, just a light indicator. Is it used to test voltage? Does anyone know what it is? It's a remote starter switch, a hands-free tool used when working on cars. The two alligator clips are designed to be attached across the starter solenoid terminals on the engine, typically the battery post and the starter signal terminal. Pressing the button on the handheld unit completes the circuit and cranks the engine without needing someone to turn the ignition key inside the cabin. This is incredibly useful for mechanics doing compression tests, setting engine timing, or diagnosing starter and ignition problems solo. The light indicator simply confirms the switch is making contact. These have been standard garage equipment since the 1950s and remain popular today because they're far simpler and cheaper than electronic alternatives. What is this electrical device on the top floor of a building from 1880? It's mounted in a room that, I believe, was once used as a dance hall. There are no markings on it, and the handle rotates around in a full motion. I thought it might be a timer for the lights. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as an antique theater light dimmer, specifically a rheostat-style dimmer common in performance venues from the late 1800s through the early 20th century. Inside the housing is a coil of resistance wire, and as you rotate the handle, a contact arm sweeps across the coil, adding or subtracting resistance in the circuit feeding the stage lights. More resistance means less current reaches the bulbs, gradually dimming them, while less resistance brings them up to full brightness. This made it possible to create smooth lighting transitions for theatrical performances and dances. These units generated significant heat during use and were eventually replaced by electronic dimmers in the mid-20th century, making surviving examples like this a fascinating piece of stagecraft history. I found these small silver chains in an old jewelry box. They have 3 tiny clips connected by fine chains, each about 2/3 of an inch long. They seem too delicate for a sweater clip, but why would a collar chain have 3 clips and 2 chains? These are lingerie clips. Throughout much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, undergarments were manufactured without adjustable straps or modern elastic. To keep things in place, women used small decorative clips like these to secure shoulder straps, chemises, and slip edges. Similar mechanisms were used on garter belts, corset stays, and brays. The 3-clip design distributes tension across multiple points, anchoring layered garments together. Both functional and ornamental, they fell out of common use once elastic and adjustable hardware became standard in the mid-20th century. What is this strange coffee table contraption from a photo taken in 1985? It has what looks like a faucet sticking out of it, surrounded by silverware and metal containers. Was this an actual product or some kind of homemade creation? What you're looking at isn't really a table contraption at all. Those metal vessels are champagne and wine chillers, designed to hold ice and keep bottles cold during a party. The faucet-looking spout in the middle is likely just a household tap, placed there as a gag or decoration, surrounded by mismatched family silverware. Champagne buckets like these became popular dining accessories in the mid-20th century, often made of silver plate or stainless steel. So this isn't a single piece of furniture, it's just a coffee table set up for a celebration. My grandparents gave me this hairy stick with horns when I was a young child, and I've never known what it actually is. Google Lens suggested it might be a Native American dance stick, but the information was conflicting. I have no Native heritage, so receiving this as an 8-year-old always felt strange. Does anyone know more about it? This is a Native American dance rattle, quite possibly Sioux in origin. The fur and horns appear to come from an American bison, which was a sacred animal central to Plains tribes' spiritual and material life. Dance rattles like this were used in ceremonial dances, with stones or seeds inside the head creating rhythm. If this is a genuine ceremonial piece rather than a tourist replica from the mid-20th century, it may fall under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, passed in 1990. It would be worth contacting tribal cultural offices to determine its origin and whether repatriation is appropriate. What is this capped metal pipe in my basement? The base is about 1 foot by 1 foot, and it recently started making a vibrating buzzing noise off and on. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as B-vent, a double-walled metal flue pipe designed for venting fuel-burning appliances like furnaces, water heaters, or boilers. The 2 layers of metal create an insulating air gap between them, which keeps the outer surface cool while hot combustion gases rise through the inner channel. The sections lock together by inserting and twisting, similar to a bayonet mount. In your case, the original appliance was likely replaced with a high-efficiency unit that uses PVC venting, or with an electric appliance, so the old vent was capped and abandoned. The buzzing is probably wind passing over the cap on the roof. I bought these sunglasses today at Goodwill, and they came with these strange rubber wing things attached to the arms. One side sticks upward, while the other side sticks out sideways. They feel soft and flexible, but I have no idea what they're supposed to do. Does anyone know what these are? These are called ear grips, or eyewear retainers. They slide onto the temple arms of the glasses and tuck behind your ears. The rubber material creates friction against the skin, which prevents the glasses from sliding forward down your nose during activity. They're especially popular with runners, cyclists, and anyone who sweats while wearing glasses. The reason one points up and the other sideways is simply that they've been bent out of shape over time. When properly seated behind the ears, both wings curve downward to hook around the ear cartilage. I found this buried mostly underground in my backyard. It measures about 7.3 by 3 inches, roughly an inch thick, and it's made of vibrant yellow plastic with an odd red circle on it. It's very lightweight, maybe around 30 ounces. Does anyone know what it is? This is a film cartridge for the Fisher-Price Movie Viewer, a children's toy first released in 1973. Inside the plastic shell is a loop of standard 8mm film containing a short, silent cartoon, often featuring Disney characters or Sesame Street clips. The viewer itself had a hand crank, so kids could turn the film forward, backward, or freeze frames at any speed without batteries. The red circle you see is the spool window, which let you watch the film advance. These cartridges sold for around $3 each in the 1970s and are now collectible vintage toys. What is this fastener attached to my Primus canteen? It has 3 metal knurled screws that don't attach to anything, and the whole assembly is about 1 inch across. It seems to be permanently fixed to the strap, but I can't figure out its purpose. Does anyone know what it is? This is a pot support adapter for the Primus Lite Plus camping stove. The 3 knurled screws are designed to thread into corresponding holes on the top of the Primus stove burner. Once installed, they create a stable platform that lets you cook with any standard pot or pan, rather than being limited to the proprietary Primus pot that ships with the system. The adapter is often stored clipped to the canteen or carry strap when not in use, which is why it appears to be attached to nothing. It's a simple mechanical solution that greatly expands the stove's versatility on backcountry trips. What is this thing? It has a handle you squeeze, and each squeeze pushes a dull silver piece in the middle upward toward the top. Anyone know what it does? It's a nutcracker. Specifically, this is a lever action or screw-style nutcracker designed to apply gradual, even pressure to crack the shells of nuts like walnuts, pecans, and almonds. When you squeeze the handle, a ratcheting mechanism drives the silver plunger forward, slowly increasing force against the nut held in the cup. Unlike a traditional plier-style cracker, this design lets you control the pressure precisely so the shell breaks cleanly without crushing the meat inside. These mechanical crackers became popular in the early to mid-1900s and remain a favorite tool for serious nut enthusiasts. I just moved into a new house in southern New Mexico, and I found these hanging in nearly every room. They're tightly rolled paper tubes that smell faintly like lavender and leave a slight residue on my hands when I touch them. I'm guessing they're some kind of air freshener, but has anybody seen these before? It's a rolled paper air freshener, sometimes called a scented paper diffuser. These work by infusing absorbent paper with essential oils, most commonly lavender, cedar, or citrus blends. As air circulates through the rolled layers, the oils slowly evaporate and release fragrance into the room. The residue on your hands is the carrier oil used to hold the scent. They're popular in the Southwest because the dry climate helps the oils evaporate evenly without becoming sticky. Once the scent fades, you can refresh them with a few drops of essential oil rather than replacing them. What is this beveled sheet metal fabrication built into the exterior foundation wall of an old house? It sits between 2 hopper windows and is currently filled with debris, with a piece of rotten plywood covering a hole in the wall behind it. Does anyone know what it is? This is a coal chute, a standard feature in homes built between roughly 1880 and 1940, when coal furnaces heated most American houses. The beveled metal opening allowed the coal delivery man to slide a chute from his truck directly through the foundation wall, dumping the coal into a storage bin in the basement known as the coal room. A typical household burned several tons per winter, and deliveries arrived every few weeks. Once oil and natural gas heating replaced coal after World War II, most chutes were sealed up with plywood or bricks, just like yours. What is this small plastic hook I found stuck to the side of my house? It looks a bit like a command hook, but the design has this odd logo on it, almost like a smart home device. Does anyone know what it is? This is a Command outdoor light clip, manufactured by 3M. The logo you're seeing isn't for a smart home system, it's actually a stylized snowflake or starburst, indicating its seasonal purpose. These clips were designed in the early 2000s using 3M's adhesive technology, which was originally invented by Spencer Silver in 1968. The clip grips the wire of a string light, allowing you to hang Christmas decorations without nails or staples. When the season ends, you pull the stretchy tab and it releases cleanly from the surface. I found this metal object in Poland, roughly the size of my hand or slightly bigger. It has a small bowl on one side, a horizontal bar with a little notch in the middle, and an overall decorative design. Could it be a stand for candles or writing tools? Does anyone know what it is? This is a fountain pen stand, also called a desk set or ink stand. These were standard office equipment from the 1880s through the 1940s, before ballpoint pens replaced fountain pens for daily writing. The bowl section originally held a glass inkwell, which would have been removable for refilling. The notch on the horizontal bar is a pen rest, designed to cradle the barrel of a fountain pen so the wet nib could hang freely without touching the desk. Companies like Schaefer and Parker sold matching pen and stand sets as popular gifts during this era. Which of these items surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. For more unknown items, check out the other videos on our channel. Hit like and subscribe.